Hi, welcome to Wikia's Fan vs. Critic. I'm your host, Matt Atchity, editor-in-chief of RottenTomatoes.com. We are here to talk about the second episode of Game of Thrones Season 4, The Lion and the Rose. Today we've got Greater Good from the Wikia community, representing the fans. Hi, Greater Good. How's it going?
Hey, it's going great, and thanks for inviting me to be part of this.
All right, so big show last night, The Lion and the Rose. A lot of people who've been reading the books know that this has been coming. Let's start off, jump right into the most important moment, which is Joffrey finally gets his just desserts. Greater Good, does that live up to expectations? For me, it did. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it did for me as well. Like, what I really like about Joffrey's death, both in the books and he's for pretty much the start of the story, we see him as this dictator, this really sadistic and cruel individual who brings nothing but pain to the realm in general. And then in the end, like as he's dying, we see him broken down. He's pretty much just a scared kid reaching out for his mother.
Yeah, there's some interesting changes that happen in that scene. One of the big changes is, for instance, in the original story, you've got this joust that happens between two little people riding a couple of pigs, and this one got changed in that you've got it's a recreation of the Battle of Five Kings, and Joffrey has managed to offend seemingly everyone there, which I actually really liked this change that George R.R. Martin was involved in. What did you think, Greater Good?
Yeah, I thought that was an excellent change as well, because it kind of fits the grandeur that Joffrey enjoys, and well, of course, the point of the book of that scene in the book was to humiliate Tyrion. It was also a way of humiliating Joffrey's enemies, in particular Robb, when we see the dwarf imitating Joffrey lift off the wolf and start humping it.
All right, so let's get back to the big news of yesterday, which is Joffrey finally gets it. I think there were a lot of people that I watched it with were cheering, which I thought was pretty bloodthirsty about him dying. A couple of questions around here. One, do we think that Joffrey suffered enough? Did we want to see him suffer more, or do we think that he kind of suffered enough based on how he died? I think that he kind of did, but I'm not one to see. I don't know. I go back and forth on it, but I kind of think he did.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that realistically, you couldn't have had a more drawn out death. It'd be hard to kill a king in such a fashion. Is a much easier way to do it and get away with it.
The other big question is, do we think that Joffrey is inherently a monster, or do we think that, given the right parenting and a different set of circumstances, could he have actually been a decent king?
Probably. If he'd been nurtured better, he could have been a better king, because it's made very clear that his parents had such a hateful marriage. Robert often neglected Joffrey and his siblings when they were younger, so I think bad parenting has a lot to do with it.
I don't know that I totally agree with you. I'm of the mind that I think Joffrey ultimately was a monster. You hear about, there's the one particular story about when Joffrey was a little kid that he wanted to see a pregnant cat's kitten, so he cut the cat open. I don't think you could just chalk that up to bad parenting. I think that you might have seen something in Joffrey that was like, the serial killer. And I think that even with the right parenting, I think he still probably would have been, if not a monster of a king, at least weak. I don't get the sense that Joffrey's got any inner strength, unlike some of the other characters that we see.
Yeah, that's probably true, because I remember in season 1 when we saw when he starts picking on Micah, the butcher's boy, Arya goes up and hits him with a stick, and then Joffrey just goes trying to kill her. So over something as simple as that. So you're probably right on that count. Yeah.
Well, that's about it for this week's episode of Fan vs. Critic. I want to thank Greater Good for joining us today. Not a ton of disagreement. I think we're mostly on the same page here. But Greater Good, thanks a lot for coming. This was a great discussion about Game of Thrones.
Thanks again for
sure.
to talk with you.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. And again, for those of you watching, make sure to catch us next week. We're going to be breaking down episode 3, and we'll see if we can maybe come up with something to debate about and really get into a knockdown, drag-out argument about maybe who's going to survive. Thanks, and see you next week.